All right, good Saturday morning, everyone. Sean Lay with a friend of mine, Kevin McDonald, lifelong Detroiter. I met Kevin exactly 3 years ago. It was July of 2014. You had been attacked in your taxi cab. Kevin has driven a cab in Detroit for 30 years. When I met you, you were telling me stories, and I said, you should write a book. And Kevin said, I am writing a book. And I said, come to me when that book is done. And Kevin finally did it. He wrote his book. It's called Money Up Front, Detroit. Money up front, you always wear your money up front hat. That means you always, hey, you had to pay Kevin to take you somewhere, so you got the money up front to take someone. But you were through the streets of Detroit for 30 years at all hours of the night, and you have seen it all.
Everything.
And that's what the book is about, your experiences as a taxi driver in the city. So the question is this morning, when someone gets this book and reads it, what's the craziest thing that happened to you over the 30 years driving in Detroit? Well,
the craziest thing that happened to me in that book basically is that story about my accident. Everybody knows about that.
You were almost killed, and this was recent, actually. You didn't have an accident for 30 years until the last year. You had a terrible accident.
Yes.
And it was almost, you were almost killed. Your passenger was. You cried about that.
Over a year. Cried over for a year. You know, it was a year that I couldn't even get over it.
Someone T-boned you on the west side.
Yeah.
And it took the fatal squad in Detroit months. They caught up with that driver. I think it was her face hit the airbag. They got DNA off the airbag, and that's how they convicted her.
Yeah, I believe that happened. Yeah, that happened.
You've been attacked. You've been shot at. You've had rappers in your car. Why did you want to write a book about 30 years on the streets?
Well, I thought it was a storyline, so I actually kept a storyline of my life. You know, as I kept driving every year, I kept stories going. You know, and each story got better and better. And that last story was the best one. So I decided that this is it. I'm gonna retire and make the book happen. You know, and here's the book.
People say they always want to write books. You did it. Was it hard to sit down and write down all these different stories?
Yes, because you had to distinguish what story you want to put out there for readers to read. So it's like, oh, I got over 300 stories to write, so I basically put a few of them out there and just said, hey, it's going to be a continuation. It's going to be a part 2, 3, and 4.
It's pretty exciting, though, your life behind the wheel all those years. The other thing is that I've ridden with you, Kevin, and you are a historian. You know every street, you know every back alley, every house, every building. So the other part of the book is the history of Detroit as well, through your eyes as you saw it through the windshield.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, I researched Detroit for many years. My grandfather was a city worker here for many years, and basically I grew up traveling across Detroit, you know, from my earliest years on up, and I remembered every street. So when I got 19 years old, I was basically got my chauffeur license, became a cab driver, and that took the toll there, you know. And I was curious about most of these storefronts in the city of Detroit. I started researching, and I started finding out where they came from and what villages and townships they were, and so that's what made me decide to go ahead and put this book together. If
you ride with Kevin, you're still driving, but now for one of the services?
Well, I retired.
Here and there?
I retired.
You retired? Happy retirement. Yes. So I just rode with you last summer.
I know. I retired September 28th.
Kevin was actually driving on the west side, I think for Lyft.
Lyft, yeah.
All right, driving for Lyft. You gave me a ride, and you were pointing out illegal dumping as we went. We did a complete report about it.
Oh, yeah, we did.
You see it all.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything when you were driving? Did you see anyone, a big fire, a shooting, something crazy?
Many fires, you know, just 2014, I believe, right before the accident, I was investigating on a fire over here off 17th and Buchanan, the old house. It caught the fire, and the fire trucks didn't put it out. They just basically let that house burn out, and it just, you know, that was one of my little stories that I was going to put in my picture book. Matter of fact, I do have that in my picture book. I got a picture book.
You're coming up with a picture book then, because you take pictures everywhere you go as well.
Over 296 photos of all Detroit.
If someone says, okay, I'm in, I like this idea of your stories, 30 years behind a steering wheel, driving in Detroit, how do they find your book?
Right now, you can go on Amazon.com/DP/154.
We'll link all this. We'll link all this. I've looked it up today. You're right on there on Amazon. Feel good to write your book?
Yeah.
You said you were going to do it, and you did it.
Well, you encouraged me. You know that.
I did.
After the accident, and I talked to you, and I said, you know what? You threw that name to me, K-Mac, and I said, you know what? I'm pulling that name. That's it. That's it. That's how I got K-Mac. Sean Lay did it.
I gave you your nickname?
Yeah.
Everyone knows that nickname. I did not know it took off like that.
When we did the interview,
K-Mac,
with my
Kevin
windows busted
McDonald.
off. Remember when we did the interview? And
We've done many interviews.
Yes, you called me K-Mac, and I said, I'm taking that name.
Congratulations on your book.
Thank you.
Money up front, Kevin McDonald.
Get it. Buy the book.